The main story we're going to talk about is honestly one of the most unbelievable, mind-blowing trials I have ever read about. It's like Hollywood movie script potential. It's got massive scam, it's got murder, it's got intrigue, it's got stealing from the state, it's got unbelievable mess-ups from people kind of giving away the scam in public letters that they wrote and didn't have to in newspapers. It's got extraditions from the United States. It's got American political deals to get South Africans back. It's got some of the most powerful politicians and business people in this country. It is an absolutely massive story. And honestly, so much has happened that what we're going to do today is make sure you understand the full madness of this asbestos trial. My name is Dan Corder. That's Eric. Well, you don't ever see him. But that is Eric. This is the Corder Report. South Africa is a movie. Welcome to the watch party. It truly is today. Now, if you're brand new here, we love to talk with you and have your thoughts, views, opinions, perspectives, even sometimes criticisms on the show. And the way that you contribute and become a recorder, save the number on your phone is 0607 613 436. We work through those WhatsApps and put them out as much as we can. Let's talk about this asbestos trial. It is an absolutely mad and a massive trial. I think that we need to start at the beginning. I don't know if there's any way to start now and then go back. I think we just literally need to start at the beginning and work through it, okay? So, as we know, the Free State is one of the most corrupted wastelands of government misallocation of budgets, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, irregular expenditure, illegal expenditure. And the premier of the Free State for a long time was Magashule. You might know him more now as the man who was in Zuma's camp, and then ended up being ANC Secretary General, and then slowly but surely was squeezed out of the ANC, mainly squeezed out because of this exact case. Because when an arrest warrant was put out for Magashule, they basically forced him to step aside. He then went and tried to start his own political party that didn't do very well at all in the election. He's aligned himself with Zuma, and he's on a real anti-Ramaphosa crusade, but he's one of the people who Ramaphosa's faction managed to squeeze out of the ANC, particularly around this trial. And he has actually claimed, amongst others, that this is part of Ramaphosa's long-term strategy of using the law and lawfare to squeeze out his political enemies. The thing is, though, there is a pile of evidence of wrongdoing involving Magashule's office from when he was premier. So this is what you need to know. Over 10 years ago now, a tender went out to audit some of the homes of the poorest people in the Free State, who had very old homes that had, and currently still have, asbestos in their roofs. Now, asbestos used to be like one of the classic materials used in buildings in many parts of the world. And then we discovered that it was unbelievably bad for people, made them very sick and shortened their lives. And so I saw a tweet the other day about how like every generation has their enemy. So the generation, 2 generations ago was lead poisoning. Then there was asbestos. We're probably microplastics. Probably our generations in every part of our body with the microplastics. So this tender was awarded. It was worth 255 million rand. And it was awarded to a couple of companies involving, one, the incredibly famous / infamous Edwin Sodi, who is a tenderpreneur of note, who has had allegations following him and his companies, particularly Blackhead, his company's name is Blackhead, around for a long time. He's been implicated in accusations and investigations of lots and lots of corruption. Edwin Sodi and then Ignatius Mpambani. So he had something called Diamond Hill, and then he had another company called 605 Consulting Solutions, right? So they got together and won this tender. Now, the long and the short of it is that of the 255 million, only at best about 21 million of those rands was spent actually checking out and dealing with the asbestos problem in the roofs of the homes of some of the poorest people in the Free State who were slowly dying and being afflicted by the presence of asbestos. Only about 21 million at our best estimates was actually spent on what it was supposed to do. The rest of it, 230 million, was transferred from the Free State Department of Human Settlements into private hands, the private hands being the companies of Sodi and Mpambani, over 2 years, like 10 tranches around about, 230 million rand was spirited away, completely gone. And the evidence that we now have, a lot of it came up during the State Capture Commission, was that it was mainly spirited away through the personal assistant of Ace Magashule. Her name, Moroadi Cholota. So she was the PA of Ace Magashule, and we have evidence that she was sending emails instructing payments to be made, firstly, from the Free State Department of Human Settlements to these companies, and then to particularly Mpambani to send that money on to a variety of different places. And a lot of the money sent on was really dodgy. Some of it was between Mpambani's companies, Diamond Hill and 605 Consulting. Some of it was to Sodi's companies or affiliates, it seems. But some of it was just clearly to, or pretty clearly, allegedly, to corrupt people, to pay them off. For example, at one point, Cholota sent Mpambani banking details for a travel agency in Bloemfontein. And 40 minutes later, according to reports, 10 million went into Blackhead Consulting Diamond Hill. And a few days later, some of that money that was supposed to go to the latest asbestos ordered payment from Diamond Hill went to the travel agency. And the invoice from the travel agency just said Cuba delegation. Now, I want you to imagine the scale of the screw-up that then happened when basically Ace Magashule's spokesperson at the time told on themselves. Because Ace Magashule's spokesperson, Tisetso Makele, then wrote an article, an open letter in a newspaper called The Weekly in June 2016, where he wrote, quote, under the visionary leadership of Comrade Ace Magashule, they had sent him and 18 other ANC members to Cuba for a political course. That open letter that he wrote told on themselves about how the money had been misspent because you could connect it to the Cuba delegation. That is a level of screw-up that I would only expect in a political satire show like Veep or something like that. And yet this is actually what happened. But some of the other payments were far more insidious, in my opinion. One of those payments seems to have gone to paying for the student fees of the daughter of an acting high court judge. Literally to pay for the student fees of an acting high court judge's child. And it was tens of thousands of rands, which suggests that people were being bought off, that people were being bribed and compromised to look the other way for a very long time as this massive scam fleecing the state of 230 million rand minimum was going on. So all of that was happening. And then Mpambani was killed in broad daylight in Sandton, driving a 3 million rands worth Bentley. And there are many reasons why this is suspicious. The fundamental one is that the assailants targeted him, killed him, and took nothing. He had recently withdrawn enormous sums of money from an ATM. Like, that cash was in the car. It was a 3 million rand Bentley. That was sitting right there. You could very easily get it into the car and drive it away. But nothing was taken from the scene. He was just murdered. It was just a hit. And that means that we now can't call Mpambani to the stand. We can't find out what he's willing to say or has to say, and we don't know exactly who killed him. But it sure is useful for the people trying not to go to jail that he's not around to testify. Now, his wife, Michelle, then took over the day-to-day management of at least 605 Consulting Solutions and kept doing all of this very, very shady work. And then there's another Mpambani who's in court at the moment. Is it Lindy Kaya?
Yeah.
And we don't exactly know yet how Lindy Kaya is related, but Lindy Kaya is an Mpambani. So like family affair, keeping it going. So all this is going on. And then the Auditor General rules that the tender, the contract for the tender for the asbestos was illegal. It was unlawful. And so that asbestos contract was supposed to instantly be cancelled and the money recovered that had already been paid out. Wildly though, after the Auditor General ruled that the contract was unlawful, another over 100 rand, I think it was 130 million, was still paid out. They just continued to pay out the money, even though the AG had said this is unlawful and you have to stop right now. It still got paid out in the continuing fleecing of the state. So all of that's happening. Then the state capture inquiry begins, and there's all this testimony about this. All of this evidence is brought forward. Ace Magashule claims that it's a witch hunt. Edwin Sodi claims that it's a witch hunt. And then extraordinarily, Moroadi Cholota, who played a very important role, right? Because if she was the one sending out the emails, telling people where to put money, that meant that Ace Magashule was never sending out those emails. So it means that there's no digital paper trail of Ace making those calls. She was literally the buffer, right? She was literally the fall guy, potentially. And it just so happens that when prosecutors want to pursue her, she's in America now, studying. I wonder who's paying for those studies. But initially, Moroadi Cholota said that she would turn state witness in some kind of deal, which meant that she would provide information to the state, and in exchange, she would not suffer any consequences, or at least a lesser sentence from the state if it came down to it. But then, when it actually came time for the state's prosecutors to speak with her and get her testimony, she didn't answer a bunch of questions. She refused to play ball with the state, which meant that her state witness status was revoked, because the deal with the state witness is you have to provide enough information that can be verified and be useful to the state for you to get the deal, the benefits from the deal. So Cholota suddenly doesn't want to comply with the state, and she's in America. So then South Africa applies to extradite her back to South Africa. She resists. But the Americans, who at the time was Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, shame, I really don't think America right now would help us. But at the time, it was Anthony Blinken and an American court. They put her behind bars and they ruled that there was enough evidence to extradite her, which is a big deal, right? Getting an extradition process done successfully from another country to grab one of your citizens from another country and bring them home, you have to provide really compelling evidence to that country to actually get it done. And the Secretary of State Blinken's office eventually said that there was enough evidence, and so Moroadi Cholota was extradited back to South Africa. Even though she said she didn't want to come back, the charges were trumped up, her life was potentially in danger, and to be fair, considering what happened to Mpambani, you can understand if she was seen as or is seen as somebody who could provide damning information to the state involving powerful people, you can understand why she would worry that her life was in danger. But she gets extradited anyway. She applies for bail. She gets bail for only 2,500 Rand, which is nothing for bail. And the state says that it's because they don't think that she's a flight risk. It means they think they don't reckon she'll be able to flee the country. I think she can flee the country. She was just in America. There are a lot of powerful people with a lot of money who would benefit from her not being around in South Africa, whether dead or alive somewhere else in another country, to not testify against them, particularly considering she initially said that she would turn state witness, but she got bail anyway. And as far as we know, she is still in South Africa. She is around and she is alive. And that all leads up to this week, where the asbestos trial is starting in earnest. They're appearing today. They appeared yesterday in court. Mysteriously, Michelle Mpambani, the widow of Ego Mpambani, is sent a sick note with her lawyers saying that she was sick and she couldn't be at court. The judges have already said, we don't buy that. We want to know which hospital she's at. We want to know what's actually wrong with her, because apparently they don't buy that it's this now very convenient timing that she's not in court in this moment. Ace Magashule says that it's a witch hunt, and he is demanding, he's actually applying to the government, the state, for state legal funding to pay his legal bills, he says, because this is all stemming from the time, or covering the time when he was Premier of the Free State, which he says gives him the right to use state resources for his legal defense. And Edwin Sodi is claiming that he should be let off because he doesn't believe, or he argues, his legal representatives argue, that all of the evidence picked up on him on this case through the state capture inquiry should not be permissible in court, should not be taken seriously. So that's where we are. That is where we are right now. And it's crazy because it involves Ace Magashule, one of the most powerful politicians in South Africa, used to be deeply entrenched in one of the most powerful political parties, deeply connected to still probably the most powerful political family in South Africa, the Zumas. It involves Edwin Sodi, who is basically the most connected business person in this country. And I'm sure that if it came down to it, Edwin could spill some serious dirt on many, many powerful politicians and business people. There are probably a lot of people thinking, we don't want Edwin to turn state witness, or suddenly realize that he's screwed and then think that, oh, if I rat on all of these other people, I can get away with it. All of these are happening at exactly the same time. And it's also a massive case for the National Prosecuting Authority because they've been working really hard on this for a long time. This would be their first potential conviction from the state capture inquiries, information that was gathered under then Deputy Chief Justice Zondo back in the state capture inquiry. And it comes as people have become more and more intolerant of the NPA's seeming inability to pull off any kind of successful court case. The fact that that pastor got off is absolutely shaken the confidence of a lot of people in South Africa about whether or not the NPA can get anything done. So it's really a massive case. And what's wild to me is all the things I just told you is only what we know. It's like so much other wild stuff has probably gone on underneath all of this. And so the outcome of this case is going to be really, really, really important in so many ways to this upcoming chapter, I guess, era of South Africa.